thanks for meeting with me about this.
You're welcome, Ms.
Again,
Washington.
so we've done the DDI for the bonding test, but I wanted to talk about the action plan and the lab that we've done since then. But first, can we go over those original standards that were of concern to the team, so that we can make sure that we're, moving the girls and getting them where we want them to be in relation to those, kind of power standards, especially after talking about final exams and things like that.
The concept or the standard that deserves special attention is standard 4.2.1. So it says here the student will explain how the properties of a molecule are determined by the atoms it contains and their arrangement. So I think there are lots of students who were able to get this right. I think a lot of these questions, students were trying to answer the questions quickly. That's one thing, while relying on what they knew rather than really reading the questions and each and every answer choice. They have to really, read and reread before making their decision on their answers.
Okay. And so, in relation to that one, the property standard, we then decided that using the lab was going to be, I guess the best way to go. So tell me how did it go in doing the lab?
It was really a very awesome experiment because we're able to see how they relate, the properties of ionic and covalent. They were able to see, this polar because it's dissolving in water. They were able to see, salt NaCl is dissolving in water, so it's polar. And they were able to relate why polar. It's because of their difference in their electrons. So we were able to see that in their writing, and also with the non-polar. So they are connecting the concept.
And so did they do the lab? Was it in here, or
Yes,
did we go down to
we did it here,
Okay.
because we're just using hot plate.
Okay, and it was just one class period?
All our classes.
No, I mean, it took one class period to
Yes, ma'am.
complete.
Yes, ma'am. 47 minutes.
So when you compared their results on the lab to the original test, how did they kind of show, or did they show any improvements in being able to prove that they better understood the properties?
Yeah, it's because they're seeing it actual. They were able to figure out which one is polar and non-polar, and seeing it in actual. Which one is not dissolving, which one is dissolving. They were able to, because it's polar. They're not dissolving because it's not a covalent bond. So.
And so so as you think about kind of their ability, so we were using the lab as the iterative practice instead of just doing a regular retest. Do you feel like it was successful in, getting
Yes.
them to prove that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Because it's an actual application of what they learned, and they were able to use some terms that we didn't expect that they're using it.
Okay.
As they start doing their XYZ in class, they were able to, compare and be able to discuss with their group the properties of ionic and covalent bonds.
And so did each girl turn in her own write-up?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's done individual.
Okay, so they performed.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
And so for when they were working, did each girl keep her own data?
Yes, ma'am. They have their data. They have their own table, and they were able to portray their different roles.
Okay.
They're assigned different roles for each group.
Okay. And so that way they were able to complete the XYZ. So what was the prompt for that?
The prompt for this is they were able to have a short reading and the packet. Okay. They have the packet.
And so what question did they answer?
For this, let me see. Go. So with this, they're asked to write down an XYZ.
Right, so that's what I'm asking.
Yes.
What were they responding to for the XYZ?
They have to have to know their claim, what they're claiming, with regards to the different properties. If they're claiming that this is polar and non-polar, this ionic and covalent, they have to defend, they have to show evidences.
So for each of the substances,
Yes,
they then
ma'am.
had to
Yeah.
tell you what it was, whether it was ionic or covalent.
Covalent.
There we go. Okay.
So there are how many materials we use for that? We have vegetable oil, salt, sugar, and baking soda.
Okay. So essentially,
They
two of
use
each.
their evidences,
Right,
their
okay.
findings, for them to comply with the XYZ.
Okay. And so as a team, this was the first time that we used the lab as iterative practice.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it something that you feel like it was
Yes,
successful?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's because they're seeing it actual,
Okay.
and then they see the evidences.
And so when we think about them going into the next unit, and so now that they're going into stoichiometry, what,
Chemical reaction.
chemical reactions, stoichiometry is next. Into chemical reactions, where will this kind of show itself again so that we would have the opportunity to see if it really stuck and to make sure that,
Our next experiment is about the signs of, or the evidences of chemical reaction.
okay,
So that will be scheduled for next week,
Mhm.
and then this will be something that they're looking forward to, and they will be applying the same concept and the same writing, and there will be more lab after that.
okay, so they'll be using that XYZ format
Yes,
again.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So we will see if they're really doing it in a proper way.
Okay, so when you think about the kind of that being their final assessment for this activity, do you think they struggled more with the format or the content?
It's more in the format, the structure.
Okay,
It's all mixed up. They're putting their evidence here in the first part, and then kind of explaining it at the same time, and then another evidences at the bottom part. So they have to know the structure, the right format for that.
but from a content perspective, they were able to
Yes,
prove.
yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, especially when they mention the polarity and the non-polar terminology relating to the covalent bond of
okay, which was outside of the
properties.
properties that
Yeah,
they
the
had
properties,
here. Okay,
yes.
okay, so that would, for some of them, that was an extra property
ma'am,
mentioned.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, I see what you're saying now.
They're getting it. Oh, they understand what's the difference between polar and non-polar, because they're trying to explain it at the same time stating their evidences.
Good, okay. And so, I guess if you think about just working towards having them improve in those skills and processes and being able to use the content as the actual evidence, and so using those vocabulary terms and
Yes,
things
ma'am.
like that,
Mhm.
are you using the rubric, the XYZ rubric? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. We're using it.
So you're saying that they were struggling with the format, but they were fulfilling the
The
content
content,
pieces.
yes.
So now what will be the change in the approach?
Yes, ma'am.
So how will you do that? Do that differently?
Since we're doing another lab this Wednesday,
Mhm.
prior to that, we have to go over again with the skills on how to write the XYZ. We're going to have a short explanation and discussion of the XYZ format prior to the day of our lab.
You could also consider, you have some, like, for
Giving
example,
this
this
back.
student
Yes,
is
ma'am.
she's not only giving it back, but maybe sharing some of the ones, like hers is a 9 out